Right. Elon Musk is giving some federal workers the boot and others a second chance to respond to his email. Yeah, I just ad-libbed that. As he continues asking for details of what they accomplished over the last week.
Madeline Rivera joins us live from Washington with the latest. Good morning, Matt.
Hey, Maddie.
Hi, guys. Good morning. Yeah, there's a lot of confusion regarding this directive. Elon Musk says while there is a second chance to respond, failure to answer again will result in termination this time. But the Office of Personnel Management says agencies will be the ones to review responses and evaluate non-responses. They look into whether employees were on excused leave yesterday or whether they had access to their email over the weekend. The OPM also says agency heads can exclude some workers from this expectation at their discretion, given that they provide reasons for exclusions. And finally, the OPM says it is up to the agency's leadership to determine what actions are taken. Some agencies, like the FBI and the Department of Defense, for instance, have told employees not to respond to the OPM email, saying they'll be doing their own reviews. But others, like the Transportation Secretary, saying that their department is going to be following this directive from Musk. But President Trump says the different orders don't necessarily mean a division between the Trump administration and Musk, and he's defending Musk's order. Listen here.
So what they're doing is they're trying to find out who's working for the government. Are we paying other people that aren't working? And, you know, where's all that? Where's the money going? There was a lot of genius in sending it. We're trying to find out if people are working. And so we're sending a letter to people. Please tell us what you did last week. If people don't respond, it's very possible that there is no such person or they're not working.
There appears to be no deadline set for a second response. We'll see if we get more clarity later today. Lauren, Steve, Ainsley, and Brian.
See, that last word, clarity.
Yeah.
There hasn't been a lot of that. Madeline, so for the federal employees who are watching right now, what are they supposed to do?
You know, we'll see. We'll see later on today if we get more answers from the White House, from the president. Look, if you listen to the OPM email, what they'll say is that they're not taking a one-size-fits-all approach to this. The administration says they'll take into account the differences among the different agencies. They'll work with the different agencies, and they're taking into things like confidentiality reasons, for example, which President Trump says was the reason, for example, that the FBI and the DOD, why they might not be responding to this email right now. So they'll take those factors into account. The White House is downplaying the notion that there is a division between the OPM and Musk here. They say at the end of the day, the administration is working together to create more efficiency among federal workers. But again, like you said, Steve, there is no doubt that there are a lot of federal workers who are confused by this, and they are hoping to get more answers later on today.
All right, Madeline. Thank you very much.
Well, Elon posted, he said the email request was utterly trivial, as the standard for passing the test was to type some words and press send. Yet so many failed even that inane test, urged on in some cases by their managers. Have you ever witnessed such incompetence and contempt for how your taxes are being spent? Makes old Twitter look good. Didn't think that was possible. The problem is the federal workers are getting these mixed messages, and it seems to be a turf war by some of the agency leaders, the new agency leaders, and Elon Musk. Now, Donald Trump said yesterday, look, all we're trying to do is make sure these people are actually working, that there are actual people, like the Social Security sending out checks to people that are 140 years old. Well, that doesn't exist. So they're just making sure that these positions are filled by live bodies. And so we're not sending money to people, paychecks to people who don't exist. But the problem is you have Office of Personnel Management. They're saying it's voluntary. You won't be fired if you don't respond. You have Kash Patel with the FBI saying pause responses. We're in charge of employee reviews. And then you have Kristi Noem with Department of Homeland Security saying don't respond. So what are you supposed to do?
Right, exactly. So who's running the show?
Well, the president gave them some cover yesterday as well. Remember, a lot of these same agencies, whether you're talking about the Defense Department as well as transportation as well, have invited Doge into their department. So they're not anti-Doge. What they're saying is the information that's going out, there's some security measures that need to put in place for that. So they want to coordinate the response to this.
So, so there's a lot of people who are going to be let go in a lot of different agencies. I know the transportation has let some people go. Now the VA, Doug Collins, has dismissed more than 1,400 employees with non-mission critical positions. Others in transportation were let go who did not have safety implications day to day. And that's what's happening, too. Just about everywhere, if you're probationary, they're looking to let you go. And I think the overarching headline is we have to cut The federal workload is 2.7 million. It's got to get less. The question is now, that was a speech the president gave at CPAC. The president, Elon Musk, saw it and said, I hear you, Mr. President. I put up this email. And the president said yesterday, I like the idea of an email. But I just think next time, very easy. A lot of these people are Elon Musk's personal friends. Hey, I'm going to send out an email. And it's going to go to all the divisions. Are you okay with this?
Right.
Because Kash Patel was only on the job 2 days. He can't have FBI agents who maybe miscommunicated being accessed. Same with Tulsi Gabbard. She's like, I really can't do this, so I'm going to back out. It doesn't mean they're fighting. It just means they just make a little bit more of an effort to coordinate.
Well, and that's the key. I think a lot of it with the State Department and the FBI and the national security apparatus is they don't want their boss, they don't want somebody at a laptop somewhere putting out, okay, these are the 5 classified things I did last week. Because there was an email that went out yesterday from HSS, the Health and Human Services, an email to the staff and said, if you reply, assume that what you write will be read by malign foreign actors, so tailor your responses accordingly. What's curious, though, I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but there was a hearing yesterday regarding Doge access to Treasury records. And the government attorney representing the White House was asked by the judge, so who exactly is running Doge? Who is the administrator? And the attorney for the federal government said, I don't exactly know. I don't have that answer. So it's kind of like, what is the flow chart for the person who's running Doge? Elon Musk has been described as an advisor to the president.
Well, I think it's a flat organization. This is not an org, and I think Washington is so used to this org chart with this person. Essentially, you have all these people that are across agencies reporting back to Elon Musk, who then goes back to the president and he makes the final decision on it. I just want them to be able to do their job. It looks like they're doing a great job. There's some bumps in the road. The last thing I would say this, because I've been getting a lot of emails from federal employees. I understand why some of you guys are feeling the heat and you're being lumped into the basket of all the other federal employees that Americans have distrust for. We're not talking about you. We understand that there are career people that just want to do their job, that love their country. But you have to understand, it is a bipartisan thing. When you look at the latest polling, independents, Democrats, as well as Republicans, all feel like there's some inefficiency in our government. And I apologize that you guys are being lumped in. You want to do your job. But something has to give here, just like in the private sector.
Argentina's doing it, and that's what they did. And they put, I mean, they had 110% inflation. It was a joke. So this guy came in. That's that leader who gave him the chainsaw. So he's trying to do the same thing. And I just think the more you realize, Musk's agency is the only way to do it. Because if you do it through normal committee meetings and oversight, it ends up being a report that nobody does. Remember the Erskine Bowles, the Bowles report. They looked at government's inefficiency for 18 months. The Simpson Bowles. And they looked at it. It was pretty comprehensive. But you know what Barack Obama looked at it and goes, this will never pass. He put it on the back burner. These guys got paid for 18 months. So he's just saying, I need somebody on the outside, doesn't need to be elected, to go in and make some tough decisions.
I think all Elon wants to do is take Brian Kilmeade. Brian would send an email that would say, I did Fox and Friends on Monday, and I did radio on Monday. On Tuesday, I did Fox and Friends. I did radio. Wednesday. Yeah, just 1 week of what you did, just to make sure you're a live body and you're a real person. I understand what you're saying. You do feel for the federal workers that are getting lumped in and are worried about losing their jobs. But I think the purpose of this is not necessarily, if you respond to the email, it sounds like you have a good chance of surviving at the workplace.
Yeah, but then again, if your advisor says don't do it, that's so complicated. Ultimately, this is going to be tied up in courts for a while. And in fact, some of the people who've brought lawsuits have prevailed, where I saw yesterday a group of employees, probationary employees, who were fired last week, got a 45-day stay as they take a look at it. Ultimately, Democrats and others say that it's unconstitutional. You need the power of Congress to close agencies and things like that. But I'll tell you, over the last 5 days, I've been down in Texas, and I talked to a lot of people down there who are not part of the federal government. But they've either got a family member or an in-law or a friend, or they know a guy who got that letter.
But y'all, the majority of the country supports the cuttings.
I get that instantly. But if you got the letter, you were just very, very concerned, and you're worried about the future. Who knows whether or not those people will be let go?
Well, the Consumer Bureau, they was put out there by Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah.
The whole division was cut. Oh, that's been controversy when Trump was in the first time.
Beginning.
Yeah, from the very beginning. So Elizabeth Warren is not happy with that, and she's having all these meetings about all the vitriol is flying about what how the Musk people don't know what they're doing. They're just cutting out. They're just trying to get tax cuts for billionaires. Brett Cooper was on, I think, with you.
Yes.
Yesterday.
So she has more than 1 million followers, 1.2 million on Instagram, on YouTube, 1.4. When she had a show, her podcast, 8 million, 9 million people would listen to it. So she was on with us. She's a Gen Zer. She's young. She's in her early 20s, and she's become very successful. She was a COVID student in college. When she graduated, didn't know what she was going to do. Started working for PragerU, and then her career just built because so many people like what she's saying. She's a conservative. She said she voted for Trump. And she said this is why more young people voted for Trump than Kamala.
I think we were just ready for something new, especially after Biden, because obviously the system wasn't working. And so in looking at my generation, I think that they realized, like, let's burn it down, basically. Let's try something new. We're willing to walk away from what we've known and what we've been told is empathetic and inclusive and correct and, what young people should believe. And we were willing to try something new. MAGA is, the raging against the machine. And young people are rebellious and they're willing to try something new.
Well, I can't blame her generation or my generation. You got folks that can't afford a house, but we're sending money to foreign governments and all. I mean, it just doesn't feel well. And I think that the Democrats, they're arguing, the argument that they make is process. They're not targeting the issue of waste, fraud, and abuse. You had Jasmine Crockett. She went on Charlamagne's The Breakfast Club and he asked her, do you think that waste and fraud is a big issue? And she goes, not at all. That is not a mainstream point of view, even for people in her party. So you can stand with the workers that are for our federal government and say, look, I want a fair process for you. But you have to understand, most Americans want cuts to happen.
Right.
And if you keep being on the other side, you're going to find yourself... We're almost to the midterms already. That started the moment Donald Trump was elected. If you run on that, you're going to lose again.
Yeah. So I think we're going to see a lot of it splayed out for the public today with, and Brian was mentioning how they're going to have a forum today, Senator Warren, with the Consumer Financial Protection Board. Keep in mind, it was Elon Musk who said, what was it? Whatever that acronym is, CFPB, RIP. That was a week or two ago. He obviously wants to get rid of it. Interestingly enough, and this would be great to see, Elizabeth Warren has invited Elon Musk. Okay, we're going to have this forum. You come on here and explain how people are going to be protected from unscrupulous lenders if this goes away. So it would be great to see that happen.
71% of students ages 18 to 25 support Doge, and 62% found a strong majority of all Americans support Doge efforts to reduce waste, fraud,
Right.
and
People
abuse.
like the idea of cutting waste. You just don't like it when it gets to their backyard.
Right. That's right.
They want to cut social programs. They don't want to cut their social programs.
Right.
That's why an outsider is so necessary to come in.